Little Bamboo is happy in her village. She runs around with Stemaru and his gang, going on adventures, singing songs, and chasing pheasant. She loves it there, but her father, the bamboo cutter, receives luxurious robes and gold from the bamboo trees and interprets this to mean his daughter should become a princess. The bamboo cutter tells his daughter that she will be happier in the capital, that she'll be happier being a princess, and so takes little Bamboo away from her exuberant life in the countryside to a quiet life of traditional, noble expectations. Little Bamboo's new life is so very limiting. The girl who would scale up steep hillsides and scavenge for mushrooms now must be seated and still. Little Bamboo, who would laugh and cry and sing, who declared how she felt, uninhibited, is informed by Lady Sagami that she no longer has need for such expression. Her father chastises Mama for cooking, for doing physical labor.
What is happening here? Why are you still behaving like some kind of a servant?
Little Bamboo's former way of living, of being useful and learning new skills, of taking care of her people and being taken care of by her people, of putting all her effort into survival and being rewarded with all the joy and sorrow that comes from living, that way of life is taken from her. Little Bamboo receives the name Princess Kaguya and becomes the object of many men's desires. Her father throws her a party where a bunch of men celebrate the idea of the beauty, they never actually see her, of a girl who just came of age. All of these men are getting socially lubricated on the idea of a beautiful young girl, while she's spending the entirety of these 3 days of festivities in her carriage, with only the protection and company of the servant girl. There's a lot of this in the film. The world naming dude almost blows his load talking up the beauty of Princess Kaguya to the 5 noblemen of the apocalypse. I know it's 4 horsemen, but technically one of them dies, so the analogy still sort of works. But then again, he ends up being replaced by the creepy emperor who goes around being intimate with people without their consent. My bad on that one, gang. The bamboo cutter is characterized as a bit of a dimwit. At the very least, he's low on emotional intelligence.
Listen to you. You still don't comprehend how your daughter feels.
He takes little Bamboo to the capital to bring wealth and status to himself, convincing himself that his daughter will be happier as a princess. There are quite a few moments throughout the film where he'll notice a change about her. He'll notice that she's upset or depressed, or that her enthusiasm and expression are gone, but he doesn't quite connect that her life of nobility is breaking her spirit. In these moments, he'll take notice and then immediately move on to something else. He never acknowledges that little Bamboo was happier when they lived off the land. The bamboo cutter makes a lot of comments about status, suggesting he's ashamed of his family's modest roots. He gets really embarrassed when little Bamboo is playing outside with a cat as the royal naming dude visits their house. The name dude finds it charming, but the bamboo cutter continues to apologize for his daughter's behavior. This sort of thing happens a few times, where the bamboo cutter is like, we have to do it this way because it's tradition, and then somebody who actually grew up with status is like, what are you even talking about? The bamboo cutter was a laborer for most of his life. He made meaningful contributions to his community and was able to take care of his family with his efforts. He led an honorable, simple life, and yet he has such disdain for the life he abandoned. He's got all this self-hatred.
We live in a much different world than those hillbillies back in our old village.
And the sad part is, once he has wealth and a little bit of status, people still trash talk him behind his back. He's not educated, he still speaks like a peasant. He still wants this life of wealth and nobility, but the nobles don't actually want him in their club. He always refers to little Bamboo as princess or your highness. Subconsciously, he places her status above his. He even uses titles with the other nobility, but he's never on the receiving end of this formality. As much as the bamboo cutter is chasing wealth and nobility, there's this constant admission of his lack of status. And little Bamboo is constantly fighting with herself, constantly debating whether she should obey her father or rebel. Mama and little Bamboo don't really try to convince the woodcutter he's wrong. They kind of just go along with his schemes until it becomes too painful to bear. A lot of the film is little Bamboo coming to the slow realization that the life she experienced as a child can never be reclaimed, and that the life being forced upon her in adulthood is kind of inevitable. There's a scene where little Bamboo returns to the countryside, and she begins to marvel at a sakura tree before accidentally knocking into a small child. Little Bamboo goes to the child's aid, but the child's mother, a peasant, takes responsibility for the mishap, afraid the princess might punish them for the incident. This upsets little Bamboo. She used to have peers in the village. She used to be one of the people. But because of her status, she's now alienated from her community. Every time little Bamboo rebels, every time she goes and fully lives life, she's punished. Not by her father, but by the way the world treats her. Some of her rebellions are more successful than others. She's pretty good at annoying Lady Sagami. She does the performative princess stuff for her father, but she does an excellent job of torturing her tutor behind closed doors. Side note on Lady Sagami. Women like this is why patriarchy is alive and well. The woodcutter is a perpetuator of patriarchy, but he's also a victim of it. I guess Lady Sagami is also a victim slash perpetuator of patriarchy, but because she's a gender traitor, I hate her more for it. I lean more androgynous on the gender expression scale, and I've never met a man who's tried to make me more feminine. Queer people certainly don't care, but it's the women upholding patriarchy that make it their business to be in my business. It's annoying. The thing is, Lady Sagami is fully educated about the social hierarchy and how it hurts women. At one point, she outs herself as power hungry.
I'm happy to see my teachings are reaching you.
The woodcutter is an idiot and hides behind his ignorance. That's not necessarily a good reason to give him a pass. I guess I've just uncovered my own internalized misogyny. I just hate her so much. But yeah, Little Bamboo's rebellion. For someone whose life decisions are out of her control, she is able to push back against the forces that oppress her, to a certain extent. The 5 noblemen of the apocalypse are grandiose buffoons. In their first meeting with Princess Kaguya, they each compare her to a different mythical treasure, to which she responds,
"These rare treasures that are difficult to obtain, I ask that you bring them to me."
Huh?
The noblemen leave in a huff. How dare she not want to be one of their concubines? But they all come back, or at least attempt to bring her a treasure. Probably because they're the type of guys who see rejection as a challenge. They want that which they do not possess. But they're dumbasses. One of them invests all his wealth into a shiny robe that he knows will not survive a fire. One doesn't have the money to pay the artisans who produced his imposter treasure. One has an angry wife. One dies because his balancing skills are trash. And one of them proclaims to be a brave warrior, except he's a massive wuss. Little Bamboo so easily outsmarts her father, Lady Sagami, and these ridiculous suitors, and it's during this period that she finally finds a middle ground between appeasing her father and living her own life. But it doesn't last long. The Emperor commands Princess Kaguya to serve in the royal court as one of his concubines. She rejects this, threatening to kill herself if her father makes her go. But then a higher calling comes for her. The moon people want her back as their princess. She spent enough time on Earth among the humans. This is one of the creepiest scenes in film. Incredibly cheerful music plays as Little Bamboo is taken away from her family against her will. She can't fight back. Her family can't defend her. Her destiny was inevitable. There's a few ways to interpret this. The literal one of the moon people coming to get their princess. The tri-layered onion approach. Princess Kaguya was taken from her village to be raised as a human princess, so she could be prepared to be a celestial princess. And then there's my interpretation, in which the Emperor takes the princess and slaughters her family and servants. Lady Sagami worked at the palace before working for the bamboo cutter, and as she said, there's no need for expression in the palace. The music the moon people play is dull, mildly positive, music that entrances people, that sedates them. Little Bamboo says the reason she went to Earth was to experience the full spectrum of human emotion, and in returning to the moon and becoming the Emperor's concubine, the range of emotions she'll be allowed will be hardly anything at all. The biggest strength of the film is that Little Bamboo must make difficult adult decisions. She's never given an easy way out. Had she found a way to stay with Stemaru, she would have had a hard life in the needs department. She watches Stemaru take a beating for stealing a chicken, which it's later implied that beatings were a common occurrence for him and that he starves most of the time. And let's be real, back in her village days, Little Bamboo and her friends were the ones going on adventures and having fun. All of the adults were working. They were on a tough, laborious grind. As easy as it is to judge the bamboo cutter for selling out his daughter for his own personal gain and social climbing, the life that Little Bamboo is nostalgic for really is that of childhood. And don't get me wrong, the life of Princess Kaguya contains a lot of emotional pain, but most parents, given the opportunity, would choose to raise their social class in an attempt to give their kid a better life. Poverty cuts deep when that's where you've spent most of your adulthood. As much as he ignores her emotional distress, the bamboo cutter really does love his daughter. He's very precious with her at the beginning of the film, and by its end, he mounts an army to keep her on Earth. When she makes the offer to become the emperor's concubine, grant him a title, and then kill herself, the bamboo cutter refuses the emperor's orders. He makes a lot of selfish decisions throughout the story, but he does value his daughter's life more than a court position, and is willing to risk the safety of the family to let her stay at home. A few other things. This is a deeply weird movie. There's a bamboo baby, moon people, a woman who magically engenders lactating breasts, and a misguided final shot of baby on moon. The animation style is amazing, and I love how all the characters look like real people, in the sense that they're not all lanky demons with big boobs. The characterization of the servant girl is a small detail, but it's great. She wants to be the princess, but she's kind to the princess and brings her a branch from the sakura tree. They also play badminton at some point, and it's hilarious how she has to bow each time she volleys. And as tragic and heartbreaking as the story is, there's moments of levity and fun. It's not just miserable, it's melancholic. It contains many gradients of the human experience. Anyway, call me back to the moon in the comments. Bye.
Spring, summer,